I actually got a little bit dizzy, like nauseous yesterday, because I was trying to read through the new COVID protocols, and I have no idea what the hell's going on. I don't get it. There are teams that were trying to tell asymptomatic players not to test. There were teams that are upset and want the league to stop play for a week. Baker Mayfield took after the NFL Players Association on social media because he's pissed off.
I think he took after the NFL, not NFL players.
Oh, okay. So I misread their tweet. Yeah. So the NFL, based on them not caring about player safety and everything that goes along with it, because now Nick Mullins is in line to start for the Cleveland Browns coming up on Saturday, because not only is Baker test positive for COVID, so did Case Keenum. The hell is going on, man? Like, what is, like, are we playing games or not? Are we stopping for a week? What the hell's going on?
All right. I brought this up yesterday, and I'll say it again, or I guess I'll ask this again. If you're asymptomatic, are you sick? Okay, the reality is most doctors will say, yeah, you may be carrying the virus, but you're not sick and you're not at risk to pass it off. That's the science, and that's everything behind it. If you don't want to take my word for it, go look it up. That's what all these leagues are dealing with right now, because the way they go about testing, and look, I'm hard on my guy, Pete Prisco, that I work out with CBS, but he's been saying this for a long time. The way they go about conducting these tests, when they take, your saliva, they do the swab and all that, they put it into, I believe it's called a centrifuge, where they spin it up, right? And he's said for a long time that they spin it too much, because a lot of the times when they test, they spin it so much that you're going to find something. Like, you're going to find something, some virus, some bacteria, something that's in your system if you spin it up that much. And so it will trigger a positive test, even though the person doesn't have any symptoms. They're feeling great. They don't feel like they have anything, but it'll test positive for something in their system, and it could be COVID or anything else for that matter, right? He's been saying that for a long time. I don't think he's wrong either. I think that's starting to be looked at again as far as how they're going about testing some of these players. And that's why you get a number of false positives at times, because they spin it so much, something triggers the positive test, and then now they're in the protocol, and then they have to wait another 24 hours to get 2 negative tests. So it's the entire process of things. It's the deciding whether or not a person who is fully feeling well, not showing any symptoms, but may actually test positive for a test. Like, are they sick? How do you want to handle that? And then even how they're administering the test I think is being looked at again. So all this is kind of up in the air because of how the NBA and the NFL and everyone's handling all of this, and especially after the players who all have asked to be vaccinated. And now they're trying to encourage players to get the booster shot. And it's like, well, if the vaccination didn't do anything or wasn't effective for a period of time, they're getting a booster shot for what, the new variants? And then you have to get a booster. I mean, where does it stop? And that's why I feel like the players are frustrated by this whole process of how it's been done by the league, and even maybe the NFLPA to some extent. So it's a problem right now, and obviously they're trying to find a solution, but they basically took back the way the league operated last year with the mask mandates, the remote meetings, all that. They're bringing everything back to that right now for all these teams.
It's just the whole thing, like, figure out a plan, man. And here's the other thing that I think, and it might have been Mike Florio who put this out. He had some report on it or sources or whatnot. But this one seemed credible, unlike the other ones. There was some thought that teams were trying to get the league to postpone this week or shut down for a week. And the thought is, let's get this under control and then let's attack it afterwards. Not the worst idea in the world. I think it's doable. I don't think it's happening.
How could we only have a season with 16 games, guys?
I mean, God forbid.
How could we possibly do that? I mean, God forbid.
Or even this. You've got that bye week in between the conference championship and the Super Bowl. The only thing that goes on that week is the Pro Bowl.
But what if it happens again and you have to cancel? If this were to unfold the same way and you got to miss another week?
But man, I've been championing that Tuesday night, Wednesday night NFL football in prime time for a while.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Come on. Adjust, adapt.
We did it last year, and I got news for you. It was awesome watching Washington and Pittsburgh in an empty stadium on a Wednesday. That was fun, man. Come on, LaVar.
Let me ask you guys this.
Hey,
do you think this is? Did you see that he threw a zinger? It was a sneaky zinger in the empty stadium. I mean, it was COVID.
Well, it was COVID. What do you want, man?
Full stadiums Wednesday nights.
It has to be due to mortality, right?
You rap pastor.
Mortality. Yeah, not mortality. Fate. Somebody dying.
Yes.
That's what this is all about, right? I mean, it's the liability connected to it. Like, could you imagine if a player passed away? Like the NFL has been fortunate enough to not have to deal with a death.
But nobody died last year, and there was no vaccine.
But that's what I'm saying. But what if it did happen? What if it did?
I mean,
is that what I'm trying to understand what it's all about?
The players aren't at risk. I think it's the coaching staff and the front office that is in the at-risk category for that. Like that to me would be the greater concern as far as COVID goes. But because even without the vaccination, the younger generations aren't at risk. But even though we keep pushing it, I think that's not a controversial statement. It's just the data. Like I'm not someone who gives a crap about others' opinions on all this stuff. I just look at the data. And so that's what it would tell you is that's the concern, I think, is more of the coaching staff, where you do have a number of people within the staff or front office that are at that at-risk age that very well could fall ill and end up dying from all of it. So I think that's more of the concern, at least in regards to a fatality.
Do you think the Browns have a legitimate gripe where they're saying, why don't we just push the game back? Do you think, what would be the solution? Move it to Tuesday? Is 3 days enough? Because with the new protocols, I guess you only have to show one negative test. Is that what it is? After you test positive, you're asymptomatic, and then they need to see whether or not you're contagious, and there's a certain way they can measure whether or not you're contagious. There's a lot going on. But if you're the Browns and the Raiders, now you're playing on a short week. Nick Mullins is your starting quarterback. The Browns are in the middle of a playoff race. Roberto's celebrating because the Raiders feel like they've got an easy win on a Saturday on the road. And so now the Raiders all of a sudden are feeling good about things. Washington's screwed. All these teams are screwed. It just feels.
The Rams.
Yes.
You mentioned the Rams. The Rams have a bunch of guys out.
It feels like you've got enough wiggle room here to move some stuff around. Why not?
But here's again, and to Brady's point, and I don't want to make a point that he's not making, but I would just say there are guys out there that are playing with COVID. Right? I mean, let's shoot that down. That misnomer. Like, whatever these protocols are, it is what it is. There are dudes that are making it to the field that are playing with COVID.
Yeah, and they're interacting with other guys and then testing positive the next day.
The problem is they haven't been able to trace that, though. Like, there's been no evidence of in the past 2 years, and I believe Dr. Sills had said this too when we heard his sound the other day. We haven't seen it transmitted in a game. And so that's the only thing that I think kind of stands in that way, is they at least can't track it back to that.
And for what it's worth,
during the week.
Yeah, but for what it's worth, I guess what I'm saying is, why should we care? You know what I mean? Like, why should we care in the sense that if they're playing the game, somebody's out there that has it. Somebody's dealing with it. They're going to work through it, whatever. If it hasn't been traced, whatever. Again, I'm not trying to say minimize what the virus is, but what I'm saying at this point, with everything that's been done, all of the testing that's going on, when you're throwing all of these people into the protocols and they can't play based off of it, my curiosity is today, now where we are, is it gonna stop the season? And I'm not saying this, I'm not even being sarcastic, right? I'm saying this because I'm really trying to understand where we are right now today. And with all of the vaccinations that have taken place, and now they're pushing boosters, whatever. What is the purpose of it? Or is it going to be like a massive, people are going to start dying off and they're afraid of that? Like, why is it being handled in this manner?
If people are still getting it after the vaccine.
People are still getting it.
I don't know.
But
man.
you're not, we're not seeing people die off of it the same way that we were seeing it when it first hit. And they locked everything down. So what I'm saying is, at what point do you say you're going to you get sick, you catch it, but you're not going to die? So how I want to go and say, why are you not treating it like any other illness that you got to get?
Yeah,
you know,
then you got to be careful
for?
of the woke mob who comes out and they attack you.
And that's what I'm afraid to just go all in and say, why can't we treat it that way?
As Ben Maller calls it, the wokerati.
Wokerazzi.
You got to be careful.
No, I mean, the truth is, like, we're a year or two out, I think, from being able to say that and not have people attack you for it.
Yeah.
Even though it's something that, like, I said it last year, and I said it yesterday. Like, at some point, you have to realize we're going to have to adapt to life where, you know, people are going to have to be able to walk around who are asymptomatic that probably have COVID. And you have to be okay with that. Or players are going to have to be out there in the field who are asymptomatic that probably would test positive for COVID. And you have to be okay with that. No different. And then, again, I'm not comparing COVID to influenza. But I'm saying there are players out there playing who've got the flu virus but are asymptomatic. But again, if some player came in, and granted, you know, this is however many years ago, if they came into the office, hey, I'm feeling sick, I feel like I've got the flu, go home, go quarantine. That's how they'd handle it. At some point, the way we handled influenza or anything else we were dealing with will end up being the same way we handle COVID. And that's not controversial. That's just the reality of this progression and how it's going to go. I think everyone was scared a year ago because we didn't know much about COVID. And what we saw was horrific, and we didn't know how to treat it. We didn't have a vaccine for it. And now we're in a completely different spot where we understand it better. And even with the variants that come with it, we're able to understand that faster. And so I think, again, eventually we'll start to treat it like that. We're just not to that point yet.
I guess what really throws me off about it is somebody could be out there with AIDS. They could be out there with HIV. Think about that one. I mean, and that's like some very real. That's real. You could be out there with something, you know, that's transmittable. And where's the protocols?
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just saying, I just want to make sure I put it in perspective because maybe I felt a little cryptic, and why I'm saying, like, what is the liability of it? What are we thinking? Like,
we're going to get to that point eventually, to Brady's point. And also, look, with HIV and all that, there was also this sort of panic when that first came out, and then we sort of learned more and dealt with it and adapted.
But the point is that somebody could be out there with it.
Yeah. No, I hear you.
You know what I mean?
What was that movie with Matthew McConaughey? Was it
Dallas Buyers
Club? Yeah. I can't believe how much weight he lost for that role.
Yeah, that's a good point. He and I can't believe Jared Leto, the performance he put on.
Was it Jared Leto I'm thinking of, or was it Matthew McConaughey?
No, McConaughey lost all the weight. Jared Leto just dressed up like a drug addict female. Yeah. But
I mean, how do you lose that much weight for a role like that? Do you just starve yourself?
Yeah.
You know, actors.
Gosh, that's got to be tough.
You got to be.
What
What does a fart have to do with it?